Hey everyone, Sarah here. Welcome to Tech Monetize Official. We usually celebrate tech that changes the world, but today we're flipping the script. What if we could have predicted the biggest tech flops before they happened? Not with a crystal ball, but with AI. We'll break down 7 infamous failures, wearables, smartphones, even a luxury juice press, and see how AI could have spotted the warning signs. If you love tech, business, or just a wild story, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. First up, Google Glass, the wearable that promised a sci-fi future but fizzled fast. AI would have flagged the privacy backlash instantly, analyzing social media and forums for the glass hole effect. It would have seen the awkward design clashing with fashion trends, predicting low social adoption. By comparing price and features, AI would show the value just wasn't there for most people. Early reviews revealed technical issues: battery, overheating, clunky interface, compounding the problem. The data would scream, too expensive, too weird, too soon. Google Glass wasn't solving a real pain point for the masses. AI's verdict? Destined to flop. Next, the Amazon Fire Phone, a classic case of brand overconfidence. AI would have seen a saturated market, dominated by iOS and Android, with no room for a third player. Its dynamic perspective feature? A gimmick with no developer support. Firefly? Just a shortcut to buy more from Amazon. Hardly a killer app. No Google Apps, no Play Store. AI would flag this as a deal breaker. The price matched top-tier phones but offered less. AI would predict low sales, quick price cuts, and a fast fade. Amazon built a phone for itself, not for users. Catastrophe inevitable. Meet Juicero, a $400 Wi-Fi-enabled juice press designed exclusively for its own proprietary juice packets. It promised to revolutionize your morning routine, blending Silicon Valley tech with the simple act of making juice. But what did you really get for that hefty price tag? A machine that could only squeeze pre-packaged pouches, and only if it was connected to the internet. This was Silicon Valley excess at its most extravagant. Lavish offices, big promises, and a product that seemed more about hype than genuine innovation. Investors poured in millions, dazzled by the idea of disrupting the juice market with high-tech flair. But if you asked any AI to analyze the product, it would quickly compare Juicero to traditional blenders and juicers. Devices that are not only cheaper but also far more versatile. Those classic appliances can handle a variety of fruits and vegetables, aren't locked into a single ecosystem, and don't require a Wi-Fi connection just to function. The business model was classic razor and blades. Sell the machine at a premium, then lock customers into buying expensive single-use juice packets. But unlike razors, the ongoing costs were sky-high, and the convenience was questionable at best. For many, the price of a week's worth of Juicero packets could buy a month's supply of fresh produce. Under the hood, Juicero was a marvel of over-engineering. Complex sensors, heavy-duty motors, and Wi-Fi modules, all to perform a task that, at its core, is simply squeezing juice from a pouch. Any AI would flag this as a glaring mismatch between problem and solution. And then there was the Wi-Fi requirement. Imagine needing a stable internet connection just to make a glass of juice in your own kitchen. If the network was down, so was your breakfast. For users, this quickly became a source of frustration. Instead of simplifying life, Juicero added new points of failure: glitches, connection errors, and the constant worry that your expensive gadget might just stop working. The supposed convenience of Juicero was barely an improvement over simply grabbing a bottle of juice at the store. In fact, for many, it was less convenient, more expensive, and far more complicated. The final blow came when it was revealed that you could squeeze the juice packets by hand. No $400 machine required. AI could have predicted this outcome from the start. The machine was unnecessary, and the value proposition evaporated. The data was clear. Juicero was overpriced, overcomplicated, and ultimately doomed from the beginning. No amount of tech could justify the cost or the hassle. In the end, Juicero became a symbol of tech gone wrong, a flop waiting to happen, and a cautionary tale for the next wave of over-engineered gadgets. The Zune, Microsoft's answer to the iPod, but 5 years too late. When it finally arrived on the scene in 2006, Apple's iPod had already become a cultural icon, dominating the world of portable music. Microsoft was entering a market that had already been defined, shaped, and essentially conquered by its biggest rival. The Zune's late arrival meant it was always playing catch-up, struggling to find a foothold in a landscape where the rules had already been written. If you looked at the numbers, the story was clear. AI would analyze market share and see Apple's total dominance. By 2006, the iPod controlled over 70% of the MP3 player market, leaving little room for competitors. The Zune was up against a juggernaut, and the data showed just how steep the climb would be. Every quarter, Apple's lead only grew, making it nearly impossible for any newcomer to break through. But it wasn't just about hardware. The iTunes ecosystem locked users in. Switching to Zune meant losing your music library, playlists, and even your purchased songs. For most people, the thought of abandoning years of music and carefully curated playlists was a deal-breaker. Apple had built a walled garden, and once you were inside, it was hard to leave. Microsoft's alternative just didn't offer enough incentive to make the jump. Microsoft tried to set the Zune apart with features like Zune-to-Zune sharing, which let users beam songs to each other wirelessly. But even this innovation was crippled by digital rights management. Songs could only be played 3 times before expiring, and with so few Zune users out there, the feature was more of a novelty than a game changer. The promise of social music sharing was undercut by technical and legal limitations. Even with solid hardware, sleek design, a big screen, and a unique interface, AI would see the value proposition was weak. The Zune was well built, but it didn't do enough to stand out from the iPod, which already had a massive head start and a loyal following. Consumers saw little reason to switch, especially when the differences were so minor. Marketing was muddled, failing to connect like Apple's iconic campaigns. While Apple's ads were vibrant, energetic, and instantly recognizable, Zune's marketing was dark, moody, and confusing. Microsoft struggled to communicate what made the Zune special, and as a result, the product never captured the public's imagination. The brand failed to inspire the same kind of excitement or loyalty that Apple had mastered. By the time Zune HD launched, smartphones were making MP3 players obsolete. The iPhone and Android devices were quickly becoming the new standard for portable music, combining phones, internet, and media players into one device. The standalone MP3 player was on its way out, and the Zune was left behind by a rapidly changing market. AI's report would be blunt: too little, too late, and fighting a battle already lost. The Zune entered a market that had already moved on, and no amount of innovation or marketing could turn back the clock. The data told a story of missed opportunities and a product that never had a real chance to succeed. The Zune was a good product, praised by reviewers for its sound quality and design, but the data showed it never stood a chance. It was a classic case of being late to the party. No matter how good the music was, the crowd had already left. In the end, the market had already moved on. The Zune became a footnote in tech history, a reminder that timing is everything, and sometimes even a great product can't overcome being a day late and $1 short. The Samsung Galaxy Note 7 hailed as the best phone ever until it started catching fire. AI would analyze engineering data, a big battery and a slim case with almost no margin for error. Simulations would predict battery expansion risks and potential short circuits. Supply chain data would reveal higher defect rates from new battery suppliers. Rushed timelines to beat the iPhone? AI would flag this as a major risk. When replacement phones also failed, AI would quickly identify a fundamental design flaw. The data would demand a full recall, not a piecemeal fix. Sometimes AI's job is to scream danger before disaster strikes. Quibi, $1.75 billion burned in months. Why? AI would see people love short-form video, but on TikTok and YouTube, not premium, horizontal, paid content. Quibi launched during COVID lockdowns when on-the-go viewing vanished. No sharing, no casting, no memes. AI would flag zero viral potential. Forced 10-minute chapters disrupted storytelling. AI would predict low engagement. Competing for attention with free apps, Quibi's value was weak. The price matched Netflix and Disney Plus, but the content didn't. AI's call wrong format, wrong time, wrong price. Quibi solved a problem that didn't exist. Failure was inevitable. When the Segway was first unveiled, it was shrouded in secrecy and wild speculation. Tech insiders whispered that it would change the world, and the media called it the next great leap in personal transportation. But when the curtain finally lifted, what the world saw was, essentially, a $5,000 scooter. Ingenious, yes, but not quite the revolution everyone had imagined. The gap between the hype and the reality was immediately obvious. People expected flying cars or teleportation, not a two-wheeled device that looked more at home in a mall than on the streets of a bustling city. If AI had been analyzing the situation, it would have quickly spotted the mismatch between the sky-high expectations and the actual utility of this niche mobility device. A closer look at the legal and infrastructure landscape would have revealed a major flaw. There was simply nowhere practical to ride it. On sidewalks, it was too fast and bulky, making pedestrians uneasy. On roads, it was too slow and vulnerable, dwarfed by cars and trucks. City planners hadn't designed spaces for something like the Segway, and retrofitting urban environments was never realistic. Then there was the price tag, astronomical for what was essentially a last-mile solution. At $5,000, it was out of reach for most commuters, especially when compared to far cheaper alternatives like bicycles, skateboards, or even public transit. The Segway was positioned as a premium product, but the value proposition just didn't add up for the average person. Socially, the Segway faced another uphill battle. Its unusual design and upright stance made riders look awkward, and it quickly became the butt of jokes on late-night TV and internet memes. Instead of being seen as futuristic, it was often viewed as a toy for the wealthy, or a punchline in pop culture. Weighing in at around 100 pounds, the Segway was anything but portable. Carrying it upstairs, loading it into a car, or taking it on public transit was a challenge. For city dwellers, portability and convenience are everything, and the Segway simply didn't fit into the rhythm of urban life. In the end, AI would have predicted that the Segway's best chance for success was in limited commercial settings. Think guided city tours, sprawling warehouses, or security patrols in large malls. But for the masses, it was never going to be the transformative technology its creators had hoped for. There's no denying the Segway was a marvel of engineering, packed with innovative technology and clever design. But ultimately, it was a solution in search of a problem, a brilliant answer to a question few people were actually asking. The hype promised a revolution, but the data told a different story. In the end, the Segway found its place as a niche product, a fascinating footnote in the history of innovation, rather than the world-changing breakthrough it was meant to be. 7 flops, 7 lessons, AI could have seen them all coming. It's not about killing creativity, but about using data to make smarter bets. Next time you see a hyped product, ask, what does the data say? The future of innovation is data-driven and hopefully less prone to spectacular failure. What tech flop do you think AI could have predicted? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more deep dives from Tech Monetize Official.